how to cope. I don't know where my hope went, but it ain't here. And so they just cover up. They put on life. They put on, the sorrow. They put on the sadness, or they might put on the smile. They might put on they put on the mask, and they just smile through it. Or you see people have nervous laughter, or they just joke all the time. That's putting on something on top of pain and not really addressing it. So we live with it, and we coddle it, and we sleep with it, and it anesthetizes us until we just can't feel it anymore.
Well, Dr. Yolanda, I think in that space is that we don't realize at that moment that we refuse to address those issues. We become toxic. We become toxic.
Very toxic.
And I'm going to share just a small piece of my life. And I was sharing with the young lady earlier today when I had gone through a relationship where I experienced domestic violence. And there was an episode, or there was an event that my face was so disfigured that my mother didn't recognize me when she came into the hospital room. My face was so disfigured and torn apart, and my mom was like, this cannot be my baby. At that moment, I remember laying in the hospital, and I wanted to die. I really wanted to die. I could remember taking shallow breaths, trying to say, okay, maybe I can just stop living, because I didn't know how to get out of that situation that I had. I made the choice to get in. Okay, so the only thing that kept me alive was my babies. I thought about my babies. Who's going to raise them? Who's going to take care of them like I can? Can't nobody else take care of them. I can't leave them.
Exactly.
So I got angry. I got really angry. And at that moment, revenge set in. Okay? And I was dead set on, I am going to kill him. I don't care how I have to do it, what's going to happen. And I remember speaking these words in the hospital by myself. I remember saying, I'm going to kill this man for what he has done to me. Instead of killing myself, I'm going to take his life. He has abused me enough. He's abused enough women, and he needs to be taken off of the face of this earth. So I remember I was released from the hospital. My face was still, really swollen because I had to have surgery under one of my eyes. And my stepbrother got word of what happened. At the time, he was incarcerated, but he was up for parole. And so as he was up for parole, he called me, and we began to plot this man's death. Now, he was crazy enough to go through with it. And my ex-husband knew him at the time, and he knew what he was capable of. So my brother said, listen, whatever you do, just don't let him out of your sight. Stay close. So when I was released from the hospital, I went back home to him. And I remember the look on my mother's face when she dropped me off, and she just bust out crying. Well, everybody thought that I was getting back with him because I loved him. I was getting back. I went back home because I had a plan to kill him.
Right.
And so, we had, constructed this plan, and, we had it all down. My brother was to come home within 30 days. And can I tell you, Dr. Yolanda, only God knew at the time that I was literally out of my mind. And that momentary decision that I had made to go through with taking this man's life because of what he did to me, it not only affected me, it was going to affect my brother and his life, his children, my family, all of the people that were connected to me.
Yes.
We're talking about toxicity.
Right.
It was going to affect everybody connected to me in a negative way.
Right.
So let me tell you how good God is. My brother's probation got revoked.
Wow.
For no reason.
Wow.
He had been good, hadn't gotten in any trouble for 2 years. There was no reason for them to say, we're not approving it.
No, there was a reason.
Well, I'm saying, on paper, there was no reason for him to be denied his parole.
Okay.
But God knew that if he had gotten out and we would have went through that plan, I wouldn't be sitting here today. my children will probably have been so damaged because of what they have gone through.
Exactly.
You know, his children, whatever the case. I was so angry. I got angry with him. I didn't talk to him anymore. I wouldn't accept no more his phone calls. I just went into this rage. Like I was really trying to go through this process of killing this man. Nothing worked. Nothing. Do you hear me, Dr. Yolanda?
Wow, I hear you. I hear you.
And I just could not figure it out. I'm like, okay, any other time, okay, I'm trying to lay some drugs with some poison. He passed up the drugs. Now what? That was unheard of. He would never do that because he had an addiction problem. So him passing up a piece of crack, that was unheard of. And I'm being very transparent.
Of course.
Because there are people that are listening to us that are dealing with these situations. They deal with these kind of emotions and they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have anybody to help them process it. They don't have anybody to say, guess what? It's okay to go through these emotions, but you're not going through them to act on them. You're going through them so you can, first of all, get the anger out of the way.
Absolutely.
So that you can now see clearly. Because what happens is we become blind by our rage, by our anger, by our bitterness, by our unforgiveness. Some people literally lose their mind, you know, behind it. So when you talked about, you know, that safe place, and then you talked about, you know, not dealing with the events, the traumatic events that happen to you, and how it can affect you, how it shuts down your voice. There are different voices that we have, because at that time my voice was rage. I'm going to kill him, that of a murderer. And I was going to do, by all means necessary, I was going to take this brother out. But thank God he shut down every avenue, every plan, everything that I thought of. Nothing happened. And what began to give me a little bit of satisfaction was, one night he had left out the house about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he got jumped.
Wow.
He got jumped. And he came back home and he woke me up and his eye was sitting out the way my eye was sitting out. I found satisfaction in that. I'm not going to lie. I did. I was like, okay. Well, now he started to get back what he gave out. But I needed that in order to let go of because what that told me was, God has you.
He does.
Stop trying to figure it out. Don't worry about what you've gone through. Make the necessary adjustments. Get out of this environment.
Right.
Get out of this environment, because again, what legacy am I leaving to my children when I don't deal with my unresolved issues? When I allow my voice or the wrong voice to stay silent? What am I teaching my children?
Exactly.
So reclaim your life. Get your power back.
Absolutely.
Get out of this situation and move forward.
Well, in your situation, and maybe we can just talk about that for a minute, you know, what happens when somebody literally in your own home, in a place where it's supposed to be safe, and it's supposed to be loving, and there's supposed to be togetherness, and someone is abusing you physically, mentally, emotionally, it is definitely shutting down all of your receptors. Everything that's supposed to work well now gets skewed. Abuse creates abuse. So in your situation, what was created was his voice in you. You took on his voice because yours was snuffed out. You took on his feelings. You took on his literally his identity. So instead of being the woman that you were needing to be and the woman that you are, you had to retaliate and then compensate. And the compensation took on. So we have to understand many times what certain things are doing and producing in our family or in ourselves.
That's key, Dr. Yolanda.
We have to know that.
That's key.
And see, that's why I say it's very important who you give yourself to. Because I really believe when you give yourself to just anybody, you take on a part of them. And when a person can sit in front of you and they can appear to be everything that you want. But as time goes on and you start investing in that person and you feel like they're investing in you, you start to see the real them, and by then it's too late because you're already, well, I'm not going to say it's too late, but you're already deep in it. So it's hard for you to, you know, get yourself to get out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, who we're joined to is critical.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of relationships, in terms of partnerships, whether we're talking about business, in terms of church, where we learn, who are leaders, connections are critical because we're always taking in.
Yeah.
We're always, pulling in as much as we're giving out. So
Yeah.
we do have to make wise choices. But when your voice is shut down like that, and you are going through those kind of critical times, it's absolutely important for somebody in your sphere, and I think this is critical, to be able to help you walk through it.
Yeah.
To walk alone
Yeah.
is almost madness.
Yeah.
Because you can't counsel yourself.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
can't advise yourself. You
Absolutely.
will always do what you feel, think, or imagine to be the right thing. And many times when you're in distress, you will you'll make a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when
I
you
like that.
remember
When you're in distress, you'll make a mess.
Hashtag.
Tap, tap, tap.
Hashtag. Come on, kid.
I like that.
Hashtag.
Hashtag.
Absolutely. And that was like the hardest part of my process, because I had to go through all of that by myself.
Sure.
I did. I had to go through it all by myself. Which I thank God for, because out of that, my book was birthed, Deliverance from the Vicious Cycle of Abuse, and I learned a lot. But what it taught me was that it's important for us to go back, like you talked about, what you do as a communication strategist, as a leadership strategist, how you go back and you help people to be able to find their voice and be able to, and you build that voice up in them, help build that voice up in them so that they can begin to live again. Because what happens is when you don't have your voice, you don't have life.
Yeah, there's no power.
You're not living.
Yeah,
You're not living.
You just start. When the voice is the thing that powers you. It's your power source. It's how we communicate. It's how we think. Our voice becomes a part of our language. You ever heard people who can't hear and then they can't speak? And they call them deaf and dumb. The brain is connected to your voice and your ability to have speech.
Yes.
So when things are happening that are not giving you growth and development and the ability to rise and to soar, it's all there. Have you ever walked into a room and asked someone how they were doing, and they might say the right words, but their voice indicates something else? You might say, "Hey, how you doing today?" And they say, "I'm okay."
I had one coworker, and I always used to ask her, I was like, "How are you doing today?" And either she'll be like, "I don't know," or she'll be like, "I'm okay," but her face and her body language always read and I was just like, "Give me a hug, come on, give me a hug, bring it in, give me a hug, it's gonna be all right," because I'm not about pressuring people into something that they don't feel comfortable talking about. If you want to talk to me about what you're going through, I'll set the the groundwork of letting you know that I'm okay with you talking to me about it, and I'll be that ear that you need to, but I'm not going to, what's wrong? You better tell me what's wrong right now. I'm not like that at all, because, with that, then people shut down even more.
But they're already telling you through their voice.
Yeah.
She already said, I'm okay, or, it's all right, but you can tell. So the voice is perhaps one of the greatest indicators that we've found. You learn a lot by the voice.
Yeah.
You learn what a person is really like by listening to the voice. So it is one of the greatest power sources, I believe, on the whole planet. I think it powers life, literally.
Yes. Well, what I want to do is identify. Actually, we're going to go to break right quick. And when we come back, what I want to do is identify some of the voice killers. Let's identify some voice killers for our audience, because you may be listening to us and you may be saying, "Well, I didn't go through an abusive situation, but maybe you went through economic hardship." Listen, in some places, if you don't have no money, you don't have no voice. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. So eventually, after being shut down time after time after time again, you feel like, well, what's the use in me saying anything? So I want us to identify some of the voice killers, and then we'll open up the lines for other people to be able to join in on our conversation. Is that okay with you?
Sounds wonderful.
Awesome.
Yes.
So to those of you all that are out there, we are going to shut down Periscope just for a minute while we're on break, so that you don't have to hear all of the, behind the scene conversations and all of that, you can go take a bathroom break or something, and then we'll open it back up once our break come on. And again, you still have time to tell your friends. You can watch us live on Ustream, www